Mr. Bennet has one favorite child. He doesn't hide it particularly well. Elizabeth is the one he talks to, the one whose opinion he seeks, the one he brings into his irony and his wit and his particular way of surviving a family he finds mostly insufferable. He thinks he's giving her a gift. He is, and the gift comes with a cost he never calculates. Let's be clear about what kind of father Mr. Bennet is, because the novel is. He is intelligent, funny, and almost entirely checked out. He married a woman he underestimated, and then spent the rest of his life managing his disappointment through irony. He retreated to his library. He let Mrs. Bennet run the household in whatever direction she chose. He watched Lydia become Lydia, knowing, as he later admits to Elizabeth, that she was heading somewhere dangerous, and did nothing.
Papa, don't let her go.
Lydia will never be easy until she's exposed herself in some public place or other, and we can never expect her to do it with so little inconveniences under the present circumstances.
If you, dear father, do not take the trouble to check her, she will be fixed forever as the silliest and most determined flirt who ever made her family ridiculous.
He is a man who uses wit as a wall, who keeps distance by making everything a joke, who has decided, somewhere along the way, that the world is too ridiculous to engage with seriously, and that the correct response to chaos is a raised eyebrow. Elizabeth inherits much of his ironic way of seeing the world, not just the intelligence, but the posture that comes with it. In a household of 5 daughters and a mother he found embarrassing, Mr. Bennet selected Elizabeth as the one worth talking to, the one who understood the joke, the one whose mind was quick enough to keep up. And in doing so, quietly, without intending to, he separated her from the rest of the family. This is worth sitting with. Mr. Bennet didn't just give Elizabeth approval. He gave her a specific kind of approval that required her to be different from her mother and sisters, to be above the noise, to be the one who saw clearly when others didn't. His favorite daughter was not simply loved, she was chosen as his intellectual ally against the family they both found difficult. One way of reading this is that Elizabeth became, in psychological terms, her father's mirror, the one person in the house who reflected back the version of himself he could still respect. And she learned from very early on to inhabit that role, to be sharp, perceptive, and above all, correct, because that was what earned his particular kind of love. From a psychological standpoint, when approval is conditional on a specific quality, the child builds their identity around that quality. Elizabeth may have learned that intelligence was the quality her father valued most, which meant she had to be right. And here is where the reading becomes most interesting. The Bennet household, from the outside, was frequently embarrassing. Mrs. Bennet's behavior at social gatherings was mortifying. Lydia and Kitty were running after officers. The family was, by the standards of Regency England, a social liability. Elizabeth didn't retreat from this the way her father did, not entirely. But she did develop a very specific way of managing it. She watched. She analyzed. She turned people into subjects for observation and made her observations funny.
I overheard, quite accidentally, Mr. Bingley talking to that conceited gentleman leant against the wall there, a Mr. Darcy, who said of me, "She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me."
This is what modern psychologists might recognize as a form of intellectualization. using analysis and wit to maintain distance from something that might otherwise cause genuine emotional pain. If you can frame your embarrassing family as a source of comedy rather than shame, you are protected from the full weight of the shame.
But really, Mum, I think it would be very hard upon younger sisters that they not have their share of society and amusement simply because their elder sisters have not the means or inclination to marry early. Sir William, wouldn't you agree?
Mr. Bennet taught her this, not deliberately, just by example. Every time he made a joke at Mrs. Bennet's expense, every time he retreated to his library, every time he met chaos with irony, he was showing Elizabeth how to survive the family they both found difficult. The problem is that once you've learned to observe and analyze and keep a slight distance from the things that make you uncomfortable, it becomes your default mode of engagement with the world. The tool that protected you at home follows you everywhere. And this is where the cost becomes specific. Elizabeth's pride is not the pride of wealth or beauty. She is not vain about her appearance or her social position. She knows both are modest. Her pride is entirely a pride in her own judgment. The pride of someone who has been told, repeatedly and by the person whose opinion mattered most, that her mind sees more clearly than other people's. And so when she meets Darcy, cold, arrogant, dismissive, her analysis is quick and confident. When she meets Wickham, warm, charming, with a story that confirms everything she already thinks, she accepts it without skepticism. She is doing exactly what she was trained to do, observing, analyzing, forming judgments, but with the specific blind spot her upbringing created, an inability to seriously doubt her own perception. When it breaks, when Darcy's letter forces her to confront how wrong she was, the moment is devastating precisely because it targets the one thing she was built to trust. How despicably have I acted? I, who have prided myself on my discernment. I, who have often disdained the generous candor of my sister. How humiliating is this discovery? Yet, how just a humiliation. She is not just embarrassed. She is discovering that the thing she trusted most about herself had failed her. Darcy's letter exposes the limits of the habits Elizabeth learned at home. Austen builds all of this without ever stating it directly. She shows us Mr. Bennet in his library, retreating from the family he can't engage with. She shows us Elizabeth watching and judging and keeping her distance. She shows us the specific alliance between father and daughter, the shared irony, the shared contempt for the noise around them. And she shows us what that alliance costs Elizabeth when she steps outside the house and applies its logic to the wider world.
Oh, my feelings are... I'm ashamed to remember what I said then. My feelings are so different.
And then, quietly, in the aftermath of Lydia's elopement, she shows us something else. By the end of the novel, Elizabeth sees something she could not see at the beginning, that her father was not merely the clever observer of the family's failures. He was one of their causes. The irony, the retreat, the refusal to engage, these were not wisdom. They often functioned as avoidance. And avoidance, passed down as wit, becomes a way of not feeling things that need to be felt. This is perhaps the sharpest thing Austen does in the novel. She gives Elizabeth a father she adores and admires, and then slowly, carefully, shows Elizabeth what it cost her to become his favorite. Mr. Bennet gave Elizabeth something real and valuable, the conviction that her mind mattered, that she was worth listening to, that intelligence was not something to hide. What he didn't give her was the other half of that lesson, that the same mind that could see clearly could also deceive itself, that pride in one's own judgment, however well-founded, needs the habit of doubting that judgment to stay honest, that the distance he taught her to maintain was not the same as wisdom. Austen gave Elizabeth a father who helped create both her strengths and her blind spots, and then gave her a story that forced her to find out which parts of herself were really hers and which parts she had simply inherited. Tell me in the comments, do you think Mr. Bennet damaged Elizabeth more than he helped her? Or do you think the gift outweighed the cost? And is there a moment in the novel where you see his influence most clearly in how she moves through the world? I'm Sana. This is Monica's Pie. The story's never just the story.